Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the EW podcast. Today, we are going to take apart an interesting story right now going on in the watch community. Everybody knows about TPG, Timepiece Gentlemen, Anthony Ferrer. It was a big scandal. He got arrested. He went to jail. So we thought, why not unwrap the whole thing and explain all the events to you guys.
You rockin' with Seth, so you rockin' with the best. Over 25 years, we've been better than the rest. Fred, he know these watches like the back of his hand. If you wanna learn watches, guaranteed this the man. I'm just saying, EW podcast.
So you have your own YouTube channel, and you make thousands and thousands of videos, not just about Tony, but you talk about all kinds of other issues in like popular pop culture.
And the law,
And law. All right, so you really are the authority when it comes to Anthony Ferrer.
1,100 videos.
So let's get a whole history, right?
Yeah, so we're gonna try to start at the beginning and try to stay on track and get to the end. Ultimately, how it started, who has been affected, and what are some potential outcomes. So let's go ahead and start. I think we're gonna start around 2017 when TPG was a flipper.
Yep, he was a watch flipper. He's been actually very honest about how he got started. At this point in time, he was a 2-time felon, and he made a video. One of his first videos was, "Who is Anthony?" And he just got out of jail, and he had a watch, I think a Tag Heuer, and he was going to flip it for profit. And he realized, hey, I made more money flipping this watch than I did working my entire 2-week paycheck.
Wow.
And that's how he got started. And then he created a YouTube channel, and that's when I started watching him. And some of probably, at the time, the best watch content that was available.
So did he start his YouTube channel before or after he created a partnership in the business?
He had a partnership with Marco before. Marco was a valet, a parking valet. I'm not sure how they exactly met. I think maybe they were trying to do some business together.
Okay.
And they thought, oh, Marco is he knows what is fake, what's real.
Yeah.
And I'm just really good at sales. So I think that's how the partnership happened.
Okay, gotcha.
So we're gonna have a lot of characters here involved. So Marco's one of these characters, and we're gonna have a lot more characters moving forward. One of the questions I have for you is like, now they're jumping into watch dealing, and oftentimes in the business we say buy the seller. When you have encountered Anthony many, many times, like what's your, as a kid said, what's the aura? What's the vibe when you've come across, now that you've interacted with all these characters? What's your gut feeling tell you?
Yeah, so for Anthony, I thought he was, very creative. He was some type of marketing genius, and that's, I'm gonna have to eat those words. The Reddit will make me eat those words. So when he did the social media blackout, because of everything else he did, I thought, oh, there must be, a very good reason to do this, because why not sell? You have a business that's growing, your YouTube channel is getting 500,000, 1 million views. It's doing really well. Why would you sacrifice all of this unless there was a bigger play? And I remember specifically when he announced producer Michael. I was like, holy moly, that's the big play.
Okay, but now you're talking 2020, I believe.
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah, so let's back up a little bit.
Before we get ahead of ourselves, all right. So what were we going to say? Sorry.
So let's back up a little bit. So he starts out with this guy named Marco, and they're flipping watches. They seem to get that rolling, where they would purchase a watch, resell a watch. What was next?
So then they moved into the Crescent. They had Dylan, who was their first employee. I don't think any of these kids got paid. I think they were just, we would later find out, from the Watch Dealer University and the students themselves, Anthony wanted them to pay to get the education. And so he started very small. The Crescent was a very small place in Dallas. And he started his YouTube channel in 2017 and didn't really catch fire until around COVID, though.
If I can interject. But the one thing about the Timepiece Gentlemen that I remember is that they were doing very high polished, a lot of production into actually seeing a lot of behind the scenes transactions, what was the buy and the sell, and also the actual transaction with the client. They were sort of ahead of the curve in that sense. There weren't a lot of other companies doing that at the time. Now it seems like that's what everybody does. So he really kind of was at the forefront of that push.
And that's why I thought he was a marketing genius, because when you are a genius, people copy you.
Yeah,
And they
copy
mimic
or
you.
follow.
And, some very big YouTubers copied that format, the day in the life of, and they were willing to tell you the numbers. They were willing to show you the clients. They were willing to show you the trades that they would get, and trades they would not do because they didn't want this watch. They had too much of that watch.
Right.
And even exposing what their inventory was at the time was kind of fascinating. Like, oh, they have too much of this Rolex, but they don't have enough of that. So that would give leverage or negotiating power to people who watched. So I thought it was, from my perspective, I'm not a really big watch guy, but I'm a big marketing guy. I own a marketing agency. And the way that he was able to do the long form content where you watch every minute, sometimes you watch it twice. I used to watch it twice because it was so entertaining. It was both the business, also entertainment. That's what YouTube wanted at the time. They wanted watch hours. They wanted from 1 minute in until 2 hours done.
All right, so we're in 2020. Everything's going swell for the guy.
Yes.
He still has his partnership with Marco. All right, let's keep on moving with the timeline.
So he's expanded, and then what would be called the social media blackout, where he deletes. I guess not delete. I don't know what it's called.
Didn't he close his store?
Yeah, he closed his store, and he actually himself. He admitted to this later. He actually took like a painter clip and like removed his name a little bit, but not all the way.
Okay.
So this is a marketing ploy. 100. I knew it was a marketing ploy.
So they closed the store. What did they do with their Instagram or their social media?
They didn't delete it. They just paused it. They suspended it. Yeah, correct.
Suspended.
It, yeah.
Okay, and this is a way to get more customers.
Well, the concept behind it was they wanted to do charity for a week. They didn't tell anyone it was charity.
Okay.
They did, I think, 4 or 5 different charities that week, raising money. They were at the food bank. I remember there's a picture of the whole team at the food bank.
Oh.
And one of the individuals was really interesting, Mike Rudin. He was like the accountant. He was really interested in watches. Yeah. He does not look happy to be there because remember, the salespeople only get paid when there are sales. So he took the whole team on charity where they weren't getting paid. And
but I understand, what's the point of closing down your store if you want to go do charity? Why don't you just put a sign on the outside of the store saying closed for a week, we're doing charity?
Right. So here's even the worst part. When people with consignments would call him and say, "Where are you?" he wouldn't pick up the phone because the whole idea was a social media blackout. So in his mind, he later would explain this to me that he thought, even though everyone loved him at the time, in my opinion, 90% of the people loved him, especially in the watch community, he thought people always thought of him as a felon. They would always think, oh, he's going to steal from consignees. He's going to take these watches and run away. And he wanted to prove that they had a misconception of him, which is very ironic today.
Yeah, looking back on it now, nothing makes any sense. But I don't know. I think this is like the first red flag that something isn't right. This whole thing about doing charity, closing down your store, it just doesn't add up in terms of common sense. I mean,
so the store they were selling watches, they were doing consignment, and they were creating content online.
Yes.
And were they also doing the almost watch school at this?
No,
point?
that would come later.
Okay,
so the host students and there was a whole Facebook group we'll talk about.
Okay.
And there was a kidney donation.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Other stuff.
So we're transitioning from, so we have the shop selling watches to creating tons of content, now blacking out.
Yes.
Okay. So what was the point of this and what was the outcome of this?
Well, I will take a lot of flack for this, and I've admitted many times that I thought it was a marketing move to get coverage. So he made the news. He made the local Dallas news. In fact, he was shooting one of his videos while they were talking about him in the news. He got a lot of media press. He got a lot. I mean, it's one of these adages in marketing, which may not be correct. All marketing is good marketing, even bad marketing. I think that's what I believed he was trying to do. He was trying to get his name out there any way he could.
Okay. Yeah, it caught some attention.
It definitely did.
And it also caught attention, now that I'm hearing the story, to people who already sent him watches on consignment.
Yes.
So
yeah, they should worry.
These customers are sending their watches on consignment to this reputable company. They go black, and now they're calling to find out or get updates on their product that they sent in. They're not getting responses. So this is starting to bring.
All right, so right now we're in January of 2021. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What happens next?
Well, they get an investment. So there was a whole investor arc where the investor could not be seen. The investor did not want to be associated with him. And the investments are going to play a very big, important role later on because there's another investor in Los Angeles, but it's a different one. And the buyout is the same investor. So this investor, there's a very famous clip where Marco and Anthony are saying to the investor, the first thing we're going to do with your money is buy a Lamborghini.
Oh.
And as soon as the investor paid that money, the money was in the bank. We estimate it's over $1 million. That's what I would guess. They bought a Lamborghini. Well, Anthony bought a Lamborghini
Why?
for marketing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
This was like a whole lifestyle.
this was, if he slaps his logo on the Lamborghini,
Yeah, I was gonna
now
say,
it's
probably-
marketing.
Yeah, you wrap the
Or
Lamborghini.
you can write it off for tax
Yep,
reasons.
and he would wrap the Lamborghini eventually with his Instagram.
But I don't. Yeah, it's not like I think you get the big tax write off on that if it's over 6,000 pounds or something like that.
So he had a
this is-
G-Wagon at the time.
So he did that with the
He
G-Wagon.
was well aware of,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, okay. So he was
uh,
he was well aware of it.
aware of the marketing and the roles of that.
Okay, what happens next? He got the Lamborghini then.
Yeah, so then he gets an investor. This is the crazy part. Somebody decided to put in, I would assume, a few $1 million into this.
Wow.
And with the investor, he just started spending money. I think his most popular video is him at Narset, which is Salt Bay's restaurant. It's now closed down in Dallas. I think he's only open in New York. They spend $17,000 on one dinner. Wow. $17,000 on one dinner.
Okay.
And there's a very famous image of Salt Bay with, I think it was bone marrow, and he's just like dripping it. And so people put other, they kind of photocopy the bone marrow out.
Okay, yeah.
And they put,
right.
they tend to put other pictures.
we know where you're going with that one.
So they're doing this for. Are these like these are hype videos to ultimately sell watches?
I think these are lifestyle videos to sell Anthony.
Okay.
To sell Anthony as this great. Anthony's always had this, even like going back to like, people treat me differently because I'm a felon and they're going to not trust me. And
Yeah.
he's always had this mindset that he's got to show them. He got to show up and show that he's better than what he is.
The 10% of his goodness.
Yes.
All right, but with $2 million, yes, you can go and have some fancy dinners with that money. However, you're really going to take that money, you're going to put it in inventory. You can start buying watches. You can have the more watches you have in front of you and on your Instagram, the easier it is to make a sale because you've got selection for the client.
Correct.
So he did become kind of like a more powerful player at that point, it sounds like.
That was the concept of
Yeah.
the investor. The investor
Yeah,
said, "You're good at selling.
Yeah.
Why don't we get you more watches?"
Yeah, let's give you some inventory to work
Makes
from.
sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, but we have no idea who that investor was.
We still do not know.
And we don't even know if they ever saw a penny back. Like it's not public knowledge. Is that correct?
Going forward to the plea deal, so as a lawyer reading the plea deal, and obviously Anthony did sign it, so he's going to get whatever jail time the judge gives him. They don't talk about investor money. They talk about victims. An investor is not a victim in the common sense, right?
Okay, so it sounds like this guy might not have got it, but maybe got some of it back during these other years, but maybe the whole thing he probably didn't get back.
I do know from Anthony calling from jail that when he got bought out, it was for $1 million. So that investor put more money into it with the idea that Marco would be able to run this company.
Oh.
Okay,
So
but now
anything
we're
worth it.
skipping
Yeah.
though. So
We're skipping,
so right
yes.
now they're still together. It's
still together.
2021. How far do we go before anything else happens?
Well, the reason that he goes to Los Angeles, I think, and if you look at the timeline, is Anthony organizes a huge deal. It's a $1.1 million deal. Some of the most beautiful watches you can ever. I mean, he showed, they were, we're not talking about like a ton of watches. We're talking about 5 or 6 incredibly expensive pieces.
Yeah.
I think there was a Sirocco, or like it's a Tiger Eye. They call it's a beautiful watch.
Yeah, there is. There was a Daytona Tiger Eye.
Leopard Daytona.
Yeah, that's a beautiful watch. And so Anthony, he's too busy going to Logan or Jake Paul's fight. So his plane gets delayed. So he sends Marco
With the merchandise.
with the bodyguard.
To go meet the customer at someone else's jewelry store, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Okay. They go to a jewelry store.
Yes.
Do you remember the story? I mean, you probably remember it better than
I don't know who we should say his name.
No, not the guy's name. Yeah, obviously, but somehow, from what I remember, the client convinces them, and I think it was a woman actually, convinces them that she's hungry and they should go to a restaurant before consummating the deal.
It was a guy. His name was Steven Nin.
It was a guy. Okay.
And so they met at the jewelry store. They thought Steven was an employee, before they left to get pho, which is, it's not very expensive. It's kind of a cheaper type of, I love it, but it's a cheaper type of eat. Marco asked and this should have been red flag. This had been a huge red flag. Can I leave the watches in your safe? And the jewelry store says no. Right. You must take the watches with you because we're not going to insure whatever. And so they take the watches. They meet at kind of a cheaper restaurant. According to Marco, the Stephen Nin, he goes to the bathroom, makes a phone call, comes back, and they get robbed.
In the parking lot.
In the parking lot.
If I remember correctly.
So what city is this in?
I think it's Los Angeles.
No. It was like
something California.
It was out in the 626 out there with a little Asian community.
Got it.
What's it called?
Oh, 626. So you have Hacienda.
One of those cities.
West Covina.
West Covina or something.
Yeah, it was in California. That's what I remember.
It's definitely California.
City industry.
So they got robbed. I mean, those guys got away with legit over $1 million in watches.
Yeah, there was never any updates. There was never like any. We caught Steven and we looked at. Wow. There was a lot of. Initially, there was a lot of, we're going to get Steven. And actually, Anthony flew out to visit the watch store, and they were closed that day. And then he started doing business on his phone. So there's a video of that.
Oh God, that's a big hit to take, though. That's a huge hit. 1.1 million. That's
and very liquid. I mean, they were probably the most. I mean, I'm not a watch guy. They were probably the most beautiful watch. I think maybe there was a rainbow Daytona there too.
Listen, depending upon the terms of their insurance policy, they may or may not have been paid on that job. I mean, they could have been. Going against the rules, the stipulations of the policy.
So one of the questions that the chat wanted me to ask Anthony was, does he know if they got paid out? And according to Anthony, who called from jail, that they did get paid out.
Okay.
I don't know if it was a full amount or not, but they got paid out after Anthony left to Los Angeles. And I think the way that he treated Marco was not, hey, Marco, are you okay? It was more of, after that happened, Marco got demoted from a partner to needing training.
Oh my God.
So
it's like, Marco, how could you let this happen?
Correct. Yes.
I trusted you, Marco.
Yeah.
And look what you did to me. Oh,
yeah.
God.
So he got demoted from like a partner being treated as an equal to and this is where the university and the students came on because he wanted to make more money outside of TPG.
So did they end their partnership, or what happened here? What happened next?
I believe he got bought out by the same investor we were talking about, and that investor said, "I'm going to give you $1 million. I'm going to buy you your YouTube channel." So in Anthony's mind, he's just paying $1 million for YouTube channel. I think the investor just wants to get rid of him. There's too much liability.
Okay. Go.
Here's $1 million.
Go off on your
Los
own.
Angeles.
Yeah.
You wanted to go there anyway.
So he took the deal because now he's got $1 million in his pocket.
Well, also part of the deal was another employee called Jimmy. He was the CFO type of employee. And part of the deal, according to Jimmy, was Jimmy had to go to Grand Caliber.
Okay, so Jimmy stuck with Marco.
Well, in the beginning, he was with Anthony. And then he found out about Travis Baker, which is the online masseuse profile.
Oh,
this has a lot to do
You're
with
skipping around here.
It's all kind of.
All right, but you mentioned Grand Caliber. So Grand Caliber is the company that Marco started after they split up.
Yes.
He created Grand Caliber.
Yes.
And then Anthony came here to Los Angeles
with Jimmy.
Yes. Okay. So now they're separated. Anthony's here.
Yep. Let's
talk about the Penthouse. Let's talk about their.
Wow. According to Anthony, he did pay for the Penthouse. There's speculation whether or not he was just advertising, because it had sat basically unrented for a long time.
So let's tell the consumers, anyone who's not familiar with the story, what was this Penthouse?
It was the most expensive rental in Los Angeles.
I think in downtown Los Angeles. It was something like, what, $75,000 a month or something?
No, it was, Anthony was good at negotiating. It was $110,000, and he negotiated down to $90,000 a month if he signed like a 1 year, 2 year contract.
For a rental.
But on top of that, the rental for the furniture was not included. That was another $50,000 a month.
So his idea was he was going to open up a quasi store in the Penthouse.
Yes.
And be able to write the whole thing off every month.
There's this really funny video where it's so fancy that you would text Anthony your favorite color, and then he would have a drink, alcoholic or non-alcoholic, of your favorite color. So when you got to the Penthouse, He would serve you a drink.
Okay. How long did that last?
Well, according to Anthony, he rented it for 2 months. There's speculation as because there was no furniture, it didn't last very long. But according to Anthony, he lost over $1 million doing that type of.
He lost $1 million.
$1 million, yes, over $1 million.
Just having it for 2 months.
Deposits and so on, and supposedly he had paid for security cameras.
All right, but we don't know the real story. The real story never really broke. We have no idea.
Know, yeah.
I mean, for all we know, he could have actually been charged 0 rent, and it was all for advertising for a potential, and he was never going to have it for more than a month or 2. I mean, we don't know.
That could be true, yes.
So we don't know. Okay, fair enough. All right, we want to stipulate all that.
Yeah, so
approximately what year is this? So we go from Texas to Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles. About what year is this?
So Marco gets robbed December 2021, and they break up spring 2022.
Okay.
But Jimmy's very important here because Jimmy finds out. So Jimmy's with Anthony.
So when did they find this out?
About Travis Baker, probably spring 2022.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead? You break the news to our client, our viewers. Our viewers. Let's hear about this part of the story.
News comes out that he is in a website called Rent a Masseuse, and in this website, it's got his profile. He goes in the name Travis Baker, and it's pictures of him like almost naked. So it's not like the type of masseuse we would think. Like it's kind of like maybe there's a little bit more, and then there's actually reviews, and one of the crazy reviews is from Asian Bijak. So anyone who's Asian and associated with Anthony, Reddit thinks is Asian Bijak, including myself, including Z, including
All right, but hang on a second. So there's no way he's a watch dealer and a male masseuse at the same time. Correct?
You would hope not, but there is speculation that he finds his clients. And that's why I think
through the watches.
No, not through the watches. No, the opposite. The opposite.
Oh, the opposite way.
The opposite way.
But Tony, doesn't it make more sense that this is just a leftover profile from back in the day before he was a watch dealer? Maybe this is something he was doing to pay the rent back in the day, and they never deleted that profile. Doesn't that make more sense?
We asked him that, and that's what he said, but it wasn't very convincing.
Oh, well, that makes...
So my theory would be that he was still probably using, again, my opinion, right? I mean, his clients are a certain type of individual, and I think, they do big deals with Anthony. They trust Anthony a lot. After this news came out, those clients, nobody wanted to appear on camera anymore, and that was a big difference to his content.
Okay, so I mean that makes sense, right? If you're homophobic, you don't want to necessarily be.
Okay, so. Then Jimmy leaves. Jimmy leaves after that. He joins Marco. Part of the buyout from the investor was, we need Jimmy. We want Jimmy. Yep. Give me Jimmy.
Yeah.
And he's, no, I can't give you Jimmy. And then he gives Jimmy. Eventually, Jimmy just leaves. And then we have in March 2022, we have the home invasion. You're gonna like this. So they're sleeping at home. Somebody comes in. And they get robbed.
Middle of the night.
Middle of the night, yeah. It makes the news. It makes the local news. There's the cameras.
News broke literally the very next morning, if I recall.
And he was so happy. I've never seen somebody robbed this happy to be in the news, right? I mean, you saw if you saw the interview, he's like, man, it was almost the best thing that ever happened to him. Yeah. And part of the explanation was $30,000 cash was stolen. And luckily for him, even though his watches were at the home, he had something called a decoy briefcase. Where it was a briefcase where I guess he put like stones in it or something that weighed about the same as a real briefcase. And without checking, and opening the briefcase, the robbers
they just grabbed
the decoy. It's a very legendary piece of law.
So I mean,
what are your thoughts, Seth?
I mean, this doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know anything about it, but I mean, I've been in the jewelry and watch business for a long time. I've never heard of a decoy briefcase, and I don't think anyone's ever heard of a decoy briefcase.
Sounds like a Breaking Bad episode.
Straight up.
So
it made great news, though.
Right. So he got publicity.
Yep, and it made it seem like he kept the watches safe, which is important, right? He didn't want to get watches stolen.
Very responsible guy. So this was after he had the penthouse. He moved in. I think it was the Hollywood Hills or something.
No, this was before the penthouse.
I thought this was after the Penthouse.
This was before the Penthouse. This was their rental before the Penthouse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the timeline, it all kind of mixes because with Anthony, like I was saying to you, like sometimes you can produce 3 videos a day on this guy.
Well, we know
so much
you
going
like to
on.
produce 3 videos a day.
A lot going on, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
And just to clarify, he's still continuing to successfully sell watches throughout this whole
In
time?
fact, he is more successful than ever before. And I had no idea why. It was because of TikTok. So some of his
Oh,
largest clients have never seen a YouTube video. They've never seen a Reddit post. They've never read an article.
They know TikTok.
But they love it. He is at this time he is massive on TikTok, and no one knows the Travis Baker. No one knows the robberies. No one knows the Penthouse. I mean, they know the Penthouse, but they're cut in a way that makes him look like he's living the life.
Okay. Wow. I mean,
Because we hear so much stuff, but I don't hear a lot about watches. I hear a lot of real estate. This went bad. This investor, but through the whole time he's selling.
But he's still making these YouTube videos. They're still very well produced. He's getting calls. I mean, he's getting calls from the YouTube videos, and he's getting calls from the TikTok. I'm sure.
Moving forward, the plea deal says he stole $5.6 million of
5.6 million.
consignment. So somebody is giving him watches, and we've met some of these victims. Levin Levy, he sued in civil court for a Richard Mille and a Rolex. Very nice pieces. Bob and Wesley, we've heard them on live stream talk about it. Bob is in Arizona. That was the Richard Mille that was lost at the Grant Cardone conference. And then Wesley, supposedly, he was out $1 million. And I mean, and he owns a plumbing business. These are, as I was saying, very intelligent, highly intelligent.
What happened?
business people.
I'm sorry. What happened at the Grant Cardone conference? I'm not.
So he went to Grant Cardone to 10x his business. This is right when the business is
one of those
sinking.
clinics that you could pay for. So he went
paid
there.
a fortune to go there.
Okay.
And he had a Richard Mille on because Grant Cardone loves Richard Mille. So he's trying to connect with Grant Cardone, right? He's trying to show off.
Okay.
According to Anthony, he gets drunk. He gets so drunk, he loses the Richard Mille. He doesn't know where it goes. Fast forward a few months ahead, one of his best clients, Bob, sees the Richard Mille because he's interested in buying one in a jewelry store in Arizona.
Yeah.
And there is a police video that went viral where that jewelry store, in my opinion, successfully bought the watch. They had a picture of the guy, and they said, "Hey, this is the guy. Do you know?" And then he kind of was like, "Oh, no, give me my watch back." And there is a video of him from the police cam of him just grabbing that watch off that lady.
Oh,
and you see like who he really is at that moment. Like all this other Timepiece Gentlemen, the tuxedo, and then all this other stuff was a facade. And you can see when he really wants something, how he actually behaves.
Well, I think in that video, that woman says that we bought this watch from a collector, and we filled out all the proper forms. We filed with the police department. It's our merchandise.
Yep.
And Anthony never filed a police report. You would think for a $250,000
he
watch.
never filed a post report.
Yeah.
And that's what they got him on. They said, "Did you file a police report?" And Anthony said, "No, I will in the future, but I cannot right now." And part of the reason he didn't file one was he said, "I'm so big on social media, everyone knew this is my watch. I don't need to file." Now, again,
I feel hearing this, he probably didn't file because it wasn't his watch.
Or he wasn't proud of the way he lost it. He didn't want to have to admit how he lost that watch.
That is embarrassing.
but we're not talking about like 10, 20. We're talking about Richard Mille. Like this is life-changing amounts of money. But even after all this happens, he's still able to convince $5.6 million. This was
wow.
I mean, this is like stuff in like 2022, and most of the watches stolen. If you look at the victims and them telling the story, this all happened, and they still gave consignment pieces to them.
So when does he come to Beverly Hills? Because that's where I remember he became my neighbor 2 blocks down the street.
So when the Penthouse failed, he needed to find a place, and that's when he came to Beverly Hills. So he Liz, Darby, Z, Trevor, who's currently, I believe, in jail again.
So let's talk about who these people are. So Liz and Darby, who are they?
Darby is a videographer. So when you talk about the quality of the video content, that was initially Darby by himself.
Wow.
One guy.
No, he's very talented.
Yes, but he also got paid very well, compensated quite well.
Okay.
Liz is Darby's now wife. They were dating at the time, maybe fiancés at the time, but now they're married, probably for legal reasons. So they don't have to testify against
And
each
she
other.
was the shipment
She
shipping
went
manager,
from
right?
shipping. She went from secretary to saleswoman, and she was the #1 saleswoman at TPG at one time because she ate all Anthony's. So anytime Anthony made a sale, she would hold the phone, and that would count as Liz's commission.
Okay.
And that pissed off all the other
Everybody
salespeople.
else, they're like, "Yeah,
everyone
she's just
else
holding
was
the
very, very mad. And then there's a scene where Vic, who's one of the salespeople, very calm individual, really smart individual, he's like, no, those are not your sales. He has to confront.
But let me just point out, like, all this kind of stuff that's happening behind the scenes, arguments between employees, who gets a sales commission. These are typically the type of things that you don't really want to include in the YouTube video you put out that week. That's the stuff that gets X'd and cut out.
Let me tell you what the most crazy video, in my opinion, is. They go to mini golf, not even real golf. They go to mini golf, and one of their employees, his name is Alfred. He was big into crypto, NFTs, this type of guy, right? He sells. The crazy thing about Alfred is at one point in time he was trying to sell spider monkeys. So this guy will flip anything.
I think I heard something
Wow.
about spider monkey.
the spider
This rings a
monkeys.
bell. I heard about spider
So
monkeys.
they go play mini golf, and they're betting on the game. They're betting $40,000 a pound.
What?
And Anthony, he hits the mini golf, he hits the putt, and it goes, and he wants a redo. And then he asks for another redo.
And there's
then
a bet on the line.
Yeah, there's a bet on the line. Alfred is like, oh, okay, like there's nothing he can do. He's an employee. He's gonna get hired. So Anthony goes from down 40,000 to his employee to at the very end up 5,000 from all the redos from his employee. And he says, you can pay me in crypto. Because he knew the crypto. And this is the same employee, Alfred. He was offered 1% of TPG, Phantom Equity. And during the lunch, or the dinner, it was a very fancy dinner. It was Marco, Anthony, and Alfred. Alfred, we know that you're super valuable to the company. We know that you're a big crypto guy. You're making a lot of money crypto. We want to keep you on. Here's 1%. And he starts bawling his eyes out. It's all on video. And then later, Anthony picks his team to go to Los Angeles. Alfred is not picked.
Oh my
Oh.
Even though he has 1% of the company.
And then Alfred tweets. When Anthony gets robbed the second time in his rental home, you deserve it or something like that. No one, like, no sympathy or something like that. And then Anthony goes berserk. He goes on a live stream for like 2 hours about how Alfred's ungrateful and Marco did this and you know, it was
Wow.
he will turn on you because he's turned on me before many times.
But you got to hand it to the guy. He really put himself out there in a way that nobody else did. I mean, he really.
Well, first video,
don't know.
I'm a 2-time felon. So
The way that nobody else would.
that's the first
Yeah,
video.
yeah.
I'm a 2-time felon. Give me your watches.
He's like, if anyone exposes me, it'll be me exposing myself.
Exactly, yes.
So I have a question. Provided the cameras are everywhere, I believe he was trying to do something called South Hill. About what time did he start? Is this later, or has this always been material for ultimately his self-published?
South Hill's the name of the street in downtown. No, that's the street in downtown Los Angeles.
Yes, that's the Penthouse.
Wait, no, I think South Hill. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but South Hill Street is the place in downtown LA that's like our 47th Street for New York.
Yes.
I don't know if that was his penthouse.
I think it was the Penthouse.
He was also
doing that
living
in the
on
Penthouse.
South Hill?
Yes.
Okay.
So at the time, he was trying to live in, supposedly
I
living in the Penthouse.
didn't know that South Hill had $75,000 penthouses.
I didn't know either.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think South Hill was
Hill?
the...
Yeah, I was on Grand yesterday. It's nice down there.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't know. I have no idea.
So yeah, that was his show.
Downtown is no
From day one, he's always had this vision that Mark Wahlberg would play himself in a movie, and it would be on Amazon and Netflix would fight for the movie rights, and he would have to negotiate very carefully.
It'd be like Entourage with watches.
He had many episodes, people calling in saying, "Hey, I'm a producer and I'm going to help you, and you want to be on Netflix or you don't want to be on Netflix because they'll control the editing." And he took this very seriously for a very long time that he would be made a movie of.
He had high aspirations for himself.
And that seemed like an early plan, because if we're talking about these Liz and Darby characters, that the videographer was just
Correct.
constantly following around for miniature golf.
And this is
everything.
crazy because like when I think of a business, right? Yes, I get that you need videographers, but I think what you need is salespeople. So when he went to Los Angeles, he bought Liz Darby. Darby's a videographer. Liz cannot do sales. And Brian. Brian is this young kid just straight from, I think, high school. He doesn't even own a car. He gives him a blue Mustang as a signing bonus. And he's not even like, he's new. He's new to videography. So instead of bringing Alfred or Vic, two salespeople that have sales records, he brings Brian, Darby, and Liz, and then Jimmy. Jimmy would eventually come back. Two of them being videographers. So at one point in time, 50% of his team was videographers. Yes. Which doesn't make sense, right? When you're trying to sell watches.
When you're Timepiece Gentlemen and watches is supposed to be the forefront of your business.
Maybe he was on the way to where he would have like 5 videographers just following him around, you know? For that
That's probably his dream, man.
When he was in Beverly Hills, was that when he was bringing in students so he could coach them?
Yep, that's when Watch Dealer University happened. It was, I think there was a discount if you sign up early. It was like $2,000 and then $1,000 if you sign up early. And then he had, according to him, 10 students that paid him $35,000 to $50,000 a year.
I'm starting a curriculum next week. So. Next week, I'm bringing up the watch trading curriculum here.
And about what year is this? So he moves from downtown to Beverly Hills, and he starts this...
The Watch Dealer University, yeah.
Watch Dealer University.
And at some point in time, he's always kind of had these students since even Dallas. One of them, his name is Ja, who was a roofer. He actually stayed with Grand Caliber because not everyone can move to Los Angeles with him.
Okay.
So some of his students actually just stayed where they were. He's always had this vision that so people call him the coach.
Okay.
And that's why, because he's coaching the young students on how to sell watches.
Provided Anthony has successfily, made a lot of watch deals. Is there any follow-up on these students?
Yes, I was contacted. Maybe we got to edit this out, but I'm just going to say it, and then you can decide.
No, go ahead. Whatever.
There was a 16-year-old who Anthony stayed in a hotel room with. His dad contacted me when the whole Gamer Seuss thing came out. He left 2 voice messages. I didn't even know how to respond to him. Wow. I was like, "Whoa! Like this is pretty."
Well, hang on. You said gay masseuse. He was a male masseuse.
A male, yes, correct.
We're
correct,
not gonna,
correct, yes.
yeah.
So a male masseuse for other males.
Okay,
that's what it was. It was a red masseuse. Yes.
All right. So you're saying allegedly, some father contacted you afterwards and wanted to talk to you about it, and you didn't even want to talk to him.
I couldn't even talk about it because I don't even know what to say.
What's he gonna say?
Yeah. What are you gonna say?
What can I tell? I mean, but there used to be a lot of video footage of this. Let's not call him minor. And this minor was hanging out. They were going to the gym together. They were eating. They were doing watch dealers. They're going to IWJG with his dad together. There's a lot of. He got to meet Paul Thorpe.
I'm sure it was all up and up. We're not going to allegate.
Yes, we're not going to. Yeah,
no,
so
we're not
it
going
has
there.
to be edited. Just it's interesting.
But listen, the kid wanted to be a watch dealer, so he was learning from Anthony. And Anthony understood how to deal watches.
And his dad was in contact, which is good.
His dad was in contact.
Yeah.
His dad was in charge of all of the meetings. But there were times where like things got weird.
Well, I'm sure everything was fine with that. Yeah.
That's what Diddy would say.
Probably cut out.
For sure.
Okay. And then, so in November 2022, he has Wesley. Wesley is a very big whale. There is a video. So Wesley owns a plumbing company. There's a video of him.
Oh, yeah.
And the video is titled, "My Biggest Sale Ever. Client invests $1 million in watches." And it's a video of Wesley saying, "Oh, I'm going to buy this watch and that watch. I'm going to put it in a safe. It'll go up in value sometime." And it turned out those watches were just Wesley's watches that he was trying to sell. And it was, I think one of the biggest losers is Wesley. Because apparently, according to Wesley, he's out $1 million. He had $1 million of consignment.
All right, so he didn't loan $1 million. He literally
gave $1 million in watches.
Gave of watches he had acquired somewhere else, or possibly from
else.
Anthony initially. Gave them to Anthony to sell.
Yes.
And never really saw the money back.
We don't know how much money is. We just know 5.6 million is missing. I would imagine a good chunk of that is from Wesley.
Yeah. Wow.
So and then we would eventually meet Bob. Bob is the guy in Arizona. He's the guy with the the Richard Mille situation where he's like, "Hey, Anthony, they have your Richard Mille." So at this point, Bob is thinking, "This guy's a legit dude. I like this guy. I'm going to help him get his Richard Mille back."
Yeah.
Eventually, Bob is sent a watch from another consignee. So another consignee of Anthony. Bob is asking, where are my watches? Where's my money? Anthony's like, don't worry. I'm going to send you a really nice watch. It turned out that the watch was from somebody else who had consigned, and Anthony didn't say that he was going to send this watch. So he got caught red-handed sending a consignment piece where the consignee had no idea this was happening to Bob.
Taking from Peter to pay Paul.
So he would have this client over here, and they would either give him money or watches. Then he would have this client over here, and they would give him money or watches, and he would float back and forth.
Yes. So he would make a payment plan, if you will.
Okay.
So that was part of Bob's. So what Bob did on TikTok was, hey, this is a stolen watch. Does anyone know whose watch this is? And the guy contacted him, said, that's my watch.
Oh, wow.
And Bob returned the watch.
Oh, so,
Okay.
So that was really good of Bob. Wow. But like at the end of the day, that's what Anthony was doing. Without Bob exposing that, you know, this whole game of charades would not probably
That's
have
the beginning of the snowball effect.
I honestly think that unless Bob and Wesley eventually would come out after Bob, that if these two victims didn't speak up, like Levy wouldn't have checked. Like these other people were checking now and saying...
Wesley was really involved with making Anthony come clean to the public. Is that correct?
Wesley and Bob.
The two
Bob
of them.
called them. Yeah, it was I mean, they were kind of a duo at the time.
So they applied the pressure, say, hey, you gotta quit the shenanigans here.
So Anthony would text them in private. All that stuff got exposed, and these text messages are very bad for Anthony because they show that apparently it got so bad that Anthony had to text all his clients about like, hey, you know, the watches were stolen. And that's why I can't give it to you. So his initial response was they were stolen.
And that was
but no one believed it because it was the third time
and
that happened.
There was
no decoy
there's no truth to that. I mean, there's no way that
so no
happened.
one believed it. And so people like Bob and Wesley would call them out. They were, it is not stolen. Where's the watches? You know, where I mean, it got once more customers understood. It was called in Reddit, it was called a men's copa, where it's basically a confession, but it involved a lot of lying, but it was the first step. Then he made the very famous confessional video, which is one of the only videos that are still up on the channel, where he just at the time he said he owed $5 million, $2 million to investor, $3 million. According to the government documents that he signed a plea deal for, it's 5.6 to just consignees.
Right, but he was saying he was going to make everything right. He was going to pay everybody back. He was going to work his tail off, and he was going to make the money and give all the profit back to the investors.
He was going to sell heavy industrial equipment at one time. Like cranes and forklifts and he was going to do social media one time for a jeweler that I'm not going to mention, but the jeweler got caught up in this and they got caught up in the drama and Reddit went after them and they said we don't know who he is.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
We don't want anything to do with him. We're not going to pick up his phone. So at that point his name was toxic, at least among the watch. He couldn't get back into the watch community at that point in time. It was too late.
Right.
Everyone stopped sending him watches, couldn't get product.
So to put a label on this is ultimately a Ponzi scheme, or is this some sort of like consignment fraud?
I think it's a hybrid. So the FBI classifies it as a Ponzi scheme. They've come on the record saying that this is a Ponzi scheme where you just take the money and then you keep giving payments and
to certain people at the top, and
so they don't speak out. So no one speaks out, and then you use the bottom to pay the top, and then they don't speak out, and then you use another bottom to pay that bottom. I think this is. In San Antonio recently, we had a guy consigned 5 Rolexes and for a total of $200,000 in sports cards, Wemby cards, and the store, it was on the local news, basically just didn't want. They sold. They either don't have the cards or they sold the cards, and now there's a lawsuit. I think this just happens when you pre-spend the money. The money is spent, it's gone, and now what do you do? Now you're in a hole.
Right.
The only way to get out of that hole is to take other watches or other money.
Got to get money from somewhere else.
And then pay the previous people. But you keep digging yourself. You're still living that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think this is, we can talk about it later, the dangers of maybe consignment, that you have to trust the dealer.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
This is more important than ever today. Like, Anthony told you who he was. He showed you who he was. And yet, very smart individuals, Bob and Wesley, they're incredibly smart business minds. I've listened to them talk on live stream. Very, very quick, very, very intelligent. They fell for it.
And they would take their heavy pieces and they would just disappear.
It was gone. And even the civil lawsuit with Levy, I was able to text message him. Smart guy. really smart guy, and I still ask the question like, how did this happen? You know, like
yeah, a lot of
he
trust has
mentioned-
to go into this.
He mentioned
yeah.
a lot of red flags. He saw this red flag and that red flag and that.
Yeah.
Like in hindsight, you see all the red flags, but when you're there, and this is coming down to Anthony's charm, right? I think this is a trait that a lot of people don't realize that is his main trait. He's very charming. Even when he was talking to me in jail, and he convinced me to pitch a art project where the subscribers send pictures of their family to jail,
and he would paint them?
and he would sketch them.
Okay, before we start talking about Joe, though, so all right, so he makes the confession video,
Yes.
and then he's basically out of business. He's saying he's going to somehow hustle up the money. He's saying with best intentions, he's going to pay everybody back.
Yes.
How long before he actually gets picked up by the police or
Well,
FBI?
let me tell
Right?
you this. Not only does he make that one video, he makes a bunch of them. You know, day one, paying $5 million. Day two, paying $4,999,000.
He's chopping it down.
and down.
Well, that's impressive. Is he really
Yeah.
doing that? Is he?
It turned out he didn't owe $5 million. He owed 5.6. So he even got the amount wrong. So I don't know how good his calculation was if the initial amount was wrong.
All right, but he is showcasing best intentions again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he made a whole bunch of, but back to my question, like how long is he on the street for before he gets picked up?
So he one day, I think probably a month or two. One day, he's in a storage facility. He's doing an interview. He's selling his rights to his story to like some type of news reporter who then does, it's Wonderland. So then does a deal with Wonderland for
wow.
production. So he's still thinking in his mind about a show is going to be made, and he's just going to use the money in the show to bail himself out. One day, they come knocking on the storage unit, and the individual that he does not want to be called an FBI informant, but I think that's what he is. Because I think that was he says Anthony's in his storage. Come now.
Oh wow.
And that's how they pick. That's how he has a motorcycle. He doesn't have plates on it. Like, so the FBI and the IRS have been both looking for this guy, but because he doesn't have a physical location, he doesn't have the Beverly Hills. They can't find him. They literally cannot. He's living in the storage facility.
I have to ask though, what flagged this? What flagged the hunt? Like, hey, this guy's not up to, there's something going on, and we need to go after this guy. What flagged
Like,
that?
what made it
Confession,
official?
yeah,
so the
confession video had to.
I owe $5 million that I stole.
and this was on YouTube.
Yes. It's still on YouTube. It's one of the
So
only videos he didn't delete.
So it's still on YouTube for all you out there on YouTube. This is.
Yeah, I don't want to say he's proud of it, but he seems like, I don't know how, I don't know how you make a video like that.
Yeah.
I don't know how
the cup
comes to it.
ran over. He couldn't take it anymore. He probably felt like, okay, this is it. This is doomsday.
Oh.
They're on their way. Or he was informed that they were looking for him. So
Also, he was a alcoholic with all the DUIs. I think he has 6 or 7. He's an alcoholic, and his 2 best friends, Liz and Darby, because they want to celebrate, they want to spend money for Liz's birthday. They get him like drunk all the time. So I think part of this was
he
he's
becomes
also
Mr.
drunk.
Nice Guy.
Yeah. He was also drunk a lot of these.
Wow.
Or hungover. Like you can tell that he is.
With the mistakes he was making.
He's just trying to drown out his mistakes.
But for a while there, he's completely sober because he's being forced to be sober, right? He was wearing.
But then he got off parole, and then he
all
could
right.
drink again.
So when he was on parole, he was different though, right? I mean, if you go back and
think-
analyze the videos,
Yeah,
he
I
was
think-
probably better sober.
He could have probably made maybe not a great. Eventually, I think he would have cheated people anyway, but it would have lasted a lot longer if he was sober.
Okay.
He made many mistakes, including getting pulled over for DUI. That became a public video.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We didn't even talk about the DUIs. Obviously, it's
And-
public record. He's got multiple.
Yes. And it's not a good look, if you're trusting someone with your watch, that this guy is,
Would take those type of
take those
chances.
type of chances. And then we also have even right after the DUI, we had Bob's Watches suing him for
Oh,
defamation.
that's the other thing.
for $1 million.
So what's the backstory on that? Do you remember?
Yeah, Anthony made a video where he was trying to say Bob's Watches isn't legit, and they didn't authenticate something.
It had to do something with.
So after the DUI, or sometime around the DUI, Bob's Watches, not Bob.
All right, the website Bob's Watches.
Correct.
Okay.
And they're local here in Newport
In
Beach.
Cali,
Yep,
here in
that's
Cali.
Cali, yep, right.
Very,
That's when-
very credible company.
Extremely
Been around for
solid
a while.
company. Yep.
They're like the Rolex gurus when it comes to pre-owned Rolexes online.
Yeah, they've been in the game for a minute, and they really took hold. Like they have a very dominant stronghold on that.
So what happened?
So Bob's Watches, there is a phone call where Trevor, who's the salesperson, and Anthony actually in the video is in the background coaching Trevor what to say, records, and they record. So Darby, the videographer, is recording this private conversation in the state of California as a two-party consent, where both people, the person who is recording and the person who's being recorded, need to say yes.
Yes.
This is different from Arizona. If you guys can remember, in Arizona, he privately recorded a Rolex salesperson,
Okay.
kind of flamed them and made fun of them for their, quote, knowledge. And he was able to publish the video without...
And that's totally fine in Arizona. There's no issues, no
yes.
stipulations.
So one-party consent. So in California, he gets hit by a lawsuit by Bob's Watches. Number one, for recording invasion of privacy is number one. And defamation. The defamation part involves the card. I'm not really big into watches.
Something that he told the consumer about the card,
which was not true.
which
The warranty card for
whatever
the
it
watch,
was.
Okay.
It wasn't a positive thing about Bob's
Yes.
Watches, and Bob's Watches then sued him on those two
Because
principles.
then it was published on YouTube, I believe, republished on TikTok, and then obviously his consumers are looking at this video and saying, "Oh, I didn't know. Should I check my watch?"
So he gets hit with a $1 million lawsuit from Bob's Watches, and now he's got the FBI and the IRS breathing down his throat for
Yep.
5 point something, almost at the same time.
And the DUI.
And the
DUI.
the
Wow.
pressure, my God.
And you see a very interesting member, Z. He starts not appearing in videos anymore
Oh.
because he's
So Z, his right hand, basically
businessman. Yeah,
is
the
gone.
10x businessman.
disappears.
And it turns out, Z we'll say this. Z has access to the Excel spreadsheet, which has all the consignees, what watches they consigned, whether or not they've been paid. And in the FBI report, somebody turned over that spreadsheet around the time that Z had immediately left.
So you're stipulating, you're alleging.
Yes,
it's your opinion.
Connection, between.
It's
those
your
two.
opinion.
In my opinion, not your opinion.
YouTube is evidence.
Oh my goodness.
That the FBI said somebody turned over a spreadsheet,
Okay.
and outside of Anthony turning it over himself, maybe Liz. I don't think Darby even had. There's very few people who have access to that spreadsheet at that time.
Gotcha. All right. Fast forward. He gets picked up. He's
Yep.
in jail. Now, Tony, you've been making videos this whole time about Anthony. I mean, you're legendary in the YouTube world. I don't think anyone's even come close. There's a couple other people out there. We're not going to name names, but they also make some videos about Anthony. But you really are the king.
You have a thesis on this.
Yes.
I mean,
and I have an audience. They love it.
Yeah.
Right. And this is,
Definitely
by the way,
have
this is not all you make videos about. You make videos about lots of other current events there, but you're very good at what you do. And so all of a sudden one day you get a email. How does this happen?
Wow. Okay. So this is a big day for me. So I make my videos like a few days in advance. So they're always kind of like, I had to like scrap all the videos that week.
Wow.
Just to focus on like this, and it was other video like Logan Paul,
Yeah.
like there was other types of videos because it was such big news. There's a legal document, and so I didn't think that it was true until the FBI, the IRS, they all published. They published.
What?
The official websites published that they got the guy.
Aha.
They don't know for what amount. There's a confusion over what amount. They just know that he's took a bunch of money.
Okay. But they found him. They got him. He's locked up.
They worked with Bob and Wesley and Levron Levy, so they're actually named in the legal framework of they gave us evidence, they gave us proof, they worked with us. So the FBI had been working very, very long. Even the individual that I talked to, that he himself is a victim of Anthony's, but he was working with the FBI to tell him where the storage lockers. I mean, there were a lot of victims that were working together to try to put him in jail.
Yeah.
Right. But he's in jail. But then I was specifically moving towards when he contacts you from jail.
Yes.
How does that happen?
Well, okay, 8 months passed. 1 month, I do not make a single. You can look at my YouTube channel.
Right.
I do not make a single Anthony video. I moved on to Logan Paul and
Okay.
CoffeeZilla and all the
You
other.
probably lost some viewers too, man.
No. I gained viewers. I gained viewers. And one day I
he's
get
up
a
to
message on LinkedIn from a guy. The guy's legit. He's like a CPA.
He's on LinkedIn.
well-dressed.
Yeah.
He's on LinkedIn. He's got his whole profile saying, "Hey, Anthony wants me to reach out to you to contact you. Do you want me to, do you want to talk to Anthony?" So I'm looking at the guy's profile. So I get another message that looks less legit from like anonymous email, like Proton Mail or something like that. and you're just like, no, this is probably not it. And I say, okay, just out of the blue, okay, why not? Let's see what happens. And I end up, emailing with CoreLink, which is, I guess the jail system has its own email.
Okay.
And then we end up texting. And interesting enough, he's texting from 2 different numbers.
Oh.
He's being Anthony while being Anthony. He's texting from 2 different numbers, calling from a 3rd number. This is stuff like
amazing. You can get a phone where you can get a phone.
It's like no matter how hard he tries, things just can't look legit for him.
How does he have phones behind bars? But okay, whatever.
I don't know, but he's texting me.
But out of all the people in the world, he reaches out to you.
Right. So under Anthony's, and I've made several very bad videos about him. Very, very bad videos about him and his behavior. And so I'm thinking, okay, this is, at first I think, so we're doing a live stream. I'm telling the audience, guys, don't get your hopes up. I don't know if he's going to be able to call in. Yeah. We get a phone call. It's Anthony. Wow. Even after the phone call, half the audience on Reddit doesn't believe it's really Anthony. They believe it's some type of AI
it's going to
voice.
take a while for that to sink in, yeah.
Then the second one comes, and then suddenly...
Boom.
They realize it's and then he does a weekly, and then eventually became twice a week.
So even though you were a big critic of his, he still sort of looked at you with camaraderie and wanted. He still wanted.
I mean.
So you're like his brother. I mean, even though you've been you've accused him of so many things.
I mean, this is the part I don't think no one will ever understand this.
Yeah.
That no one is gonna get. Why me?
Yeah, why you?
Biggest hater, biggest critic.
Yeah.
He's mentioned this many times.
Yeah.
I think I'm the only one who has a platform that would benefit from
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the other people we reached out to didn't quite have the platform or the audience.
Yeah.
Because he knew I had the audience, and they were just. We haven't heard from him in 8 to 9 months.
So you were touched.
Yeah, not touched. Yeah, you know what? The Reddit will they will think, they will accuse him of not touching.
Yeah, right.
All right, but for the record, I know your story a little bit. So if we go back into time, even before anything even happened between you and him, you were an SEO, let's call it guru on social media.
Yep.
And he was actually looking for a consultant.
Yes.
And that's how you guys first contacted each other back in what 2017, 18?
Yeah, so the FBI informant, he's the one who put me in touch with him. So this is all around. The characters are all the same.
Yeah.
They're just rotating.
We're going full circle.
We're going full circle, right? He's like, hey, Anthony's looking for a marketing guy. I know a marketing guy. Let me put you in touch with Anthony. Eventually, this guy, and he's a really great guy. I'm not going to say his name. He's a really great guy. But he's also a victim of it. And he's an older guy.
And you had nothing to do with the watch world at this point.
No, I had been given one watch that I didn't even want. It was a Sprite for being 10 years at the auto or 5 years at the auto company selling meetings objectives.
That's nice.
And I just kind of put it in a safe.
So it's like what 2018 approximately.
2017. Yeah.
17. Okay. All right, but now we fast forward back to he's behind bars and you're his go-to guy. He trusts you.
Yep. And we were doing live streams from jail.
Yeah.
I don't know how we can do this. I still don't know, what the legal procedure. And remember, an important part was even all this money, all the friends he had, he couldn't find a lawyer. He had a public defender.
Right. So he has a public defender, but even beyond that, isn't he selling art through you, or you're helping him sell art?
So. We didn't sell any art.
Okay.
No one
I saw the art video.
Okay.
Well, he sent art from prison to me to advertise.
Okay.
So he was serious about it because it cost money to do that.
Yeah, this guy has many
I looked
talents.
at the step. It is not cheap sending stuff from prison to the outside. I looked at stamps. And, I mean, it is not cheap to do that.
But he's trying to make a little money, and he's behind bars, and what else can you do?
But it's not money. So he's known in the watch community. It's Seth. Do you want to send pictures of your family to a guy in jail for him to sketch?
Hey, there's some real wackos out there. Who knows what?
Then to sketch pictures of your family. Who knows what with?
Well, he gave it a shot. I mean, again, more power to him.
So I have to ask, provided that so many people have reached out to you, these are not maybe the safest characters. How do you feel in regards to your safety? People are seeking you out. How do you feel?
Oh yeah, I mean, I get these emails, I get these text messages.
I've seen the comments on your videos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whose side are you on?
Yeah,
man?
yeah. No, I understand now, and that's I understand. I did platform him. Initially, I thought this is a kind of fun. We're gonna have. But he was trying to sell stuff. I will say he was attempting to sell things for money that went. So initially, I thought he was giving the money to like a judge or. Yeah. But at the very end, he made it very clear the money will all go to him, and if he chose to give it to a judge or to the victims,
reimburse victims, yeah.
Yeah, the reimburse victims, he would make that choice by himself. Yeah. So the whole pitch completely flipped. Very late on. And that's when I said, maybe I shouldn't platform him. In fact, he sent me a text message, and the way that Anthony sends text messages, oh, I'm gone from social media. I'm going ghost mode, but I might come back. So he's trying to bait you and asking, Anthony, come back. I need you, Anthony. Like, he's trying to bait me into it. He's still trying to do that because that's his nature is...
And this is all like last couple weeks.
Yes, it's been. We haven't talked since I think early October.
Okay.
But we've been talking on live stream for about 2 months.
So what are the odds after this video comes out and he hears that you were on the EW podcast that he contacts you?
Very high, very high. Because for him. So we haven't even talked about like Clove and these other. When a character takes the spotlight away from him, he either fires them, demeans them, demotes them like Marco. Like he has this addiction to social media. I think we're all a little addicted to it. That was the lesson that the blackout was supposed to teach us, that we're all addicted to social media. But I think he wants to do live streams again because like I was telling him, hey. After every live stream, the first thing, so it takes 2 hours for the jail system to read the text and send it to you. But after 2 hours, everything is, what are the numbers like? What are the comments about? Every live stream.
He's never left the game. So what do you predict happens next for this guy?
I mean, I think sentencing is in January. This has a lot to do. Does he get 5 years?
Yeah.
Does he get 10? Does he get 20? Like, does he get 40?
Okay.
How does he play out? Like, I'm just going to say it. You can edit this part out if you want to, but it depends on who he gives up.
Okay.
It depends on his cooperation. Right. That's what the plea agreement says.
Right. What you're saying is there's a lot of missing money, and it didn't just evaporate into the thin blue air. And so there's a chance that maybe this merchandise is sitting somewhere, and maybe they can recapture it.
Merchandise or the money.
Yeah, one very good example of this is the civil lawsuits. I'm going to just talk about what we know publicly, so it won't be a big deal.
Objectively, unbiased.
Objectively, there's a civil lawsuit from somebody in California. I don't know. He went physically to Beverly Hills, so he probably lives in Beverly Hills. He's a locksmith, and he gave a Richard Mille, and he gave a really nice Rolex. The Rolex ended up, I believe, in California. The Richard Mille ended up in New York. And then they advertised on their website. It was the same serial number. That company is now in trouble, right? Because it's part of the lawsuit.
Oh.
So I can speak. I've talked to Blvd about this. He's hired an attorney, and they're trying to get back his watches. Not from Anthony, because there's no money. There's no money from Anthony, but from the two dealerships. They're trying to work out something from those two dealerships so they can resolve it. Maybe the idea is maybe you don't get every dollar, but you get the difference. So let's say a Richard Mille is $250,000. The dealership bought for $100,000. There's $150,000 unaccounted for.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is again hypothetical. I can only speak hypothetically. The idea would be, okay, the dealership, did you sell the watch? You sold the watch, cool. You sold it for $230,000. You made $130,000. Are you willing to give that money back to the victim in some type of settlement? Yeah. Or if the watch is still there, if he wants the watch back, would you take whatever Anthony sold the watch to you for? So right now they're in, he was supposed to, we were trying to get him on live stream. We're trying to get him his lawyer. He had to check with his lawyers about a lot of stuff. Yeah. But we were trying to get him to like explain the process because I think a lot of people may be in that same position. Where Anthony's they're not going to get any money from this guy.
Yeah.
But the watches are somewhere.
Got it.
He knows where the bodies are buried.
And if on a $250,000 watch you get $100K, that's still big money for you know. Like it was an invest. That's still big money.
Wow.
So that's what I hope will happen, but who knows? It's still working on it.
So what's next for LUS? What's next for you?
Next sentencing.
Yeah.
We'll probably make another 10 videos
Yeah,
about that.
that's gonna
be a big news. Whether or not it goes 5, 10, 20, that would be big.
What's your prediction?
My prediction is 10 with maybe 8 or 7 actually served, and then time served.
Okay.
But it could be up to 40. Again, it really depends. We don't know how much he's going to cooperate.
Because they're gonna say the charge, and then they're gonna say how many years per charge.
So the judge is going to look at how cooperative he is, what he's been able to help, and how he's, how
old is he? He's like 40 years old?
He's the same age as me. Like, this is what's so interesting. We're both named Tony.
Okay.
We're both about 37. I think he's 37. I'm 37. I think he's 37, 36. And yeah, I mean, there were so many. I never visited him in Dallas, but there were so many times that I had clients in Dallas. Where I would just be very close to Crescent.
He's right next to me.
I never visited him.
Oh.
But I may never visit him, and which is kind of funny in this whole saga where you dedicate so much time to one individual, and he's just, you never get to meet him.
Yeah, he's your modern day PayPal pen pal.
No. I
Pen
do.
pal.
This is going to sound really terrible, but I'm going to say it, right? Because I said it. I do feel a little sadness, right?
Yeah.
The Great Gatsby, the American Dream. You're so high and you fall so low, and then no one cares. Liz and Darby, you paid $20,000 for their. I don't know if you've been to Liz and Darby's apartment.
I've never been to their apartment.
That area.
Oh, that area. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's very expensive.
What is it? Beverly Hills? Or?
I think it's like Long Beach, like on the beach. Venice Beach.
Long Beach.
Oh, Long
Venice
Beach.
Beach. Venice Beach.
Okay.
That makes sense. I think they like the beach.
And you feel a great sadness. Like, when he contacted me, I actually felt really sad for him that, like, I'm the only one who will pick up his phone call.
Yeah, I mean, the dude is human,
Like,
right?
This dude treated so many watch dealers and so many people to dinner, and he went to these events, and there's videos of him just paying this bill and that bill, and having this party, and giving this watch to this influencer for free, and
but other
the math doesn't math. Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, when he needs somebody, there's just this big savior left.
It's just you.
I'm positive he called people. I would be shocked if he didn't call Liz Darby, he didn't call Z, he didn't call Jimmy or Marco. I mean, because his relationship with them was much closer than mine with him. And they were generally positive relationships.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Gatsby. You're like the Nick character at the beginning.
Yeah, I'm the Nick character.
You're
reporter.
Nick.
Yeah. And I go to the funeral at the end. I'm the only one there.
The only one that shows up.
I'm the only one that shows up. Yeah. I mean, I watched with Leonardo DiCaprio like the other day the version, the film, and I was like, you know what? I think this is like the American. Why it's called the Great American Novel, is Anthony's kind of the great American like Ponzi schemer, or we have so many of them, but people did at one time look up to him.
Yeah, I mean, there was a huge guy from the finance world, Madoff. Madoff.
Oh,
I'm thinking of Madoff before crypto. Yeah. I'm not saying that that's how I look at Anthony, but listen. So, do you have any more questions?
Just some couple light ones.
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
Aside from being a guy from Houston.
Do you know the drink?
Yes, I do.
I know this story.
I needed for this story.
I'm really trying to control myself here. Yeah. You don't want to drink, do you?
No, I don't drink.
You don't drink.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm giving up drinking.
Better.
I mean, on the light note, you mentioned something fun, and I always joke we always wish to have this on video because we have young ones and we're always teaching them how to negotiate and stuff like that. One of your big hobbies is
Pokemon cards.
Let's get it.
And Magic, yeah.
Pokemon Magic cards.
I think it's so similar to your watches, really. Like you try to buy low, you hope the watch price goes up. Maybe it goes down and you have to offload it, right?
Well, let's give him a plug. Do you have a website?
No, I will be at Collecticon, which is the big event in Houston. I don't know when this video will be.
You're gonna be signing autographs there?
No, I mean I will
He
be.
will this show.
I will be trying to sell my Pokemon cards in a
That's
desperate
his main
attempt.
focus.
Yes, my main focus will be
Yeah.
trying to offload as many Pokemon cards as I can.
I want to put an order
So
in for my
when you say
12-year-old.
offload
Yeah,
as many Pokemon cards, like what do we talk about in terms of quantity of cards?
So with Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, I owned
Yeah.
a store previously. I
Okay.
have like the inventory list. It's about 2 million retail, and it's I have a storage facility that's 20 feet by 20 feet, which is the biggest you can get.
Yeah.
It's basically up to the ceilings in the Costco containers, and I have my whole home like, if I want another kid, there's no room.
Didn't Pokemon prices go through the roof during COVID?
They did.
Okay,
Everything
but did it
changed.
crash right now, or is it okay? Or
It's coming back up again. Like
Yeah.
there are
Okay.
so many
Yeah.
like younger people like just trying to make a business on YouTube and CollectorCon. If you ever go to that convention, it's all young people just wheeling and dealing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Of
Have you
cards.
considered to handle the Pokemon Gentlemen?
You get some Funko. You get some Funko Pops in there
Yeah, I
too.
got some Funko Pops in that too. In fact, in my video tomorrow, I show you my inventory for just my home, not my
Funko
storage
Pops?
locker. Yeah,
Oh, man.
the Funko Pops are an absolute waste. They take up a ton of space and they don't sell.
Well,
Because they're
you
mine.
can see that'll probably hit at some point in time because whether it's the watch industry, if we have like the movie Uncut Gems or something within the cultural world hit, like Pokemon Go had to have an impact
That
on
was
the cards.
2016.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Pandemic wise, people just had a lot of money and they wanted they saw it as an investment first, which could only go up in price. Sports cards too. Otani cards are very hot right now.
Yeah.
I think his 50-50 ball sold for like $2-3 million.
$4 million.
$4 million.
Four
$4 million,
something,
yeah. There's a legal debate about that.
There is, in regards to who owns it, right?
Yeah, who owns it?
Yeah.
There's a kid who's like just turned 18 on his birthday.
Oh no.
Boom.
He's filming, but if you look at the Ronald Acuna ball, which is the equivalent of that, right? It wasn't 50-50. I think it was like 47-40. That one only sold for 20,000-30,000. So you're already seeing the Shohei, hype, and
for sure.
so
I actually had a customer trade in watches, sell watches to gain capital to go buy cards.
yes, yeah, no, it's
Like he's like going crazy for it. He's
the
like,
guy
"I
in
gotta
San
get these
Antonio.
cards."
It was 5 Rolexes and a bunch of cards.
Yeah.
That's his consignment. Like, there's actually a lot more intersection between these two than you'd think. A lot. I mean, I have a friend who traded a bunch of cards for a Rolex to a Rolex dealer. Rolex dealer just sold the cards on eBay. He had an eBay store, and he knew what he could sell it for, and the guy was happy with his Rolex.
All right. Well, listen, I got a proposition for you. Anthony's old office is about 2 blocks from here. For the hell
I've
of it,
never
would you
gone.
like to just go see where Anthony was doing business?
yeah.
We can walk over there,
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
nostalgic little visit.
Yeah. I'm
go
going to
check
make
it
it
out.
short from it.
All right, let's do it.
Let's run it.
All right, we'll make a video. All right, wow. I think we've exhausted almost everything about Anthony on this one. Anthony,
We've
Fair.
definitely unpacked the Timepiece Gentlemen
Unbelievable.
saga.
What a crazy
But
story.
what if I told you this? There are so many interesting side characters that this could go on forever.
Oh, yeah.
This is one character. This is the main guy. But you got Marco, Jimmy, Vic, Mike Rudin. He's the first one to jump ship.
Yeah.
So what did he know? You have the designers, the security guard. You have multiple security guards.
Yeah.
You have the.
Oh, how about the whole event in his office where the Italian guy tried to sell him a Daytona
Oh my
that
God!
wasn't
Yeah,
a
the fake Daytona.
the
yeah,
fake, it was a very,
Daytona.
very high-end aftermarket Daytona that he and then confiscated it. Told
He
him
confiscated.
he's confiscated from the thief, and then the police come over
Yeah,
and
they
he's
said, okay, good job.
and he kept it. Yeah, the cop just let him keep it.
And
That
he was
was
supposed to
crazy.
give it back to another guy.
Another
the other
dealer,
guy
and
then said something, and
Try to
it was
blackmail him with the.
It's like funny. Like what authority does he have to take the watch?
That was amazing.
No, but he attempted that with the Richard Mill. It just didn't work.
It didn't work
Right,
out
right,
that
right.
time.
The
Yeah,
police came that time and
Well,
said, no, give back the watch.
well, it was a little different. Roles were reversed, but yeah.
At the
that he
Arizona
knew.
dealership.
It was exactly the exact reverse. Like, you can't make this. And one day he's doing that, and the other day he's doing the reverse role.
Yeah.
He's living 2 different,
That whole scenario reminded me when I was a kid and my bike became stolen, and it was one of the neighbors down the street, and it's like I went down there, to the house with my dad, and my dad was talking to his parents, and the bike's right there. Like, give me my bike back. It's like, how do you just get your bike back? It's like, you can't come in my house and take my bike. You know, they'll probably like hurt me or something. But it's just like, how do you just go over to someone's establishment and just try to take something back? It has to be something in between, like some
and you see all the salespeople surround him.
Yeah.
Oh, they locked the door. They locked the door.
Yeah, like standing behind him so he could like try to run out with it.
They thought he would run with it.
That'd be terrible because then that'd be him catching another case. You know, it's just bad. It's all bad.
Well, Tony, thanks for agreeing to be on our podcast.
absolutely.
It was really good to meet
Really
you.
good meeting you
Thank you,
guys.
Tony.
Fascinating.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you in the next episode. Thanks so much.
Peace.
Bye.
Woo!
That's episode 1 of more to come.